All right, let's flip the script a little bit. It's hard to compete with the behemoth that is the NFL. The league that, we see the NBA going through a stoppage in their season, restarting and going into a bubble. We see baseball kind of botch their situation, and they're finally starting to get back on the field this month. Football, all we know so far is that the Hall of Fame game got canceled. No big deal. And half the preseason, 2 of those weeks got canceled. With rumors that all 4 preseason games are probably going to get wiped out, eliminated, and we're just going to see a season. Do you guys think there's going to be any further changes or delays with the football schedule at all, besides preseason?
Go ahead, Dylan.
As much as I don't want to admit this, I do foresee some kind of change here. Honestly, at this point, if I just had to project what it would be, I think it's probably going to be a shortened season. Given the circumstances, a lot of cases have kind of going up recently here. So again, this is just a projection. Obviously, as a selfish football fan, I want to see all 16 games, but I want them to be safe here as well and not further delay things even more, or having to pause the league like the NBA had to. I just don't think that's going to be the exact route that the NFL would want to go, let alone the players as well. So hopefully everything works out and for the best for everybody. And that means that the league is able to move forward with or without fans in attendance there. But at this point, I don't really see a clean path to where all 16 games are going to happen, and definitely don't see preseason happening at all, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, selfishly, I don't want any delays. I don't mind, because they've been doing most of their training and meetings in Zooms, just like we are right now. There's a few people out there throwing with whatever receivers they can, like Brady in Tampa, finding where he can. And he's got a new offense he's got to pick up. I can understand it. The guy's a winner. He knows how to do it. How are you going to argue with that like that? Right? And I'm sure all the other NFL teams are doing the same thing somehow, whether it's known or not. I think the NFL wants people in the stands, though. I don't think they're ready to give up that revenue. I think that's why they might not have 4 preseason games, or maybe not even any at all. But that's only so they can plan. Merchandising is huge, and having people walk through those gates and buying merchandise and do what have you, beer, food, is a big deal to them. So I'm waiting to see. I just want the players to stay safe, come up with the best way to keep your team healthy. They're not going to keep them in a bubble like the short NBA teams, right? In Orlando and possibly the other tier in Chicago. So you understand what I'm saying? I don't know how they're going to do that. And everybody that goes along with it, the trainers, the crews that work for the stadiums, and security, it's a lot bigger than, entity. It's not like going to, AIU and playing some games in a control dome, like we all have in the past and probably currently. So I just need the football season to go on, and they added another playoff seed in there too. So maybe we take advantage of it. Maybe some people that acquired quarterbacks that already know the system. It's easier, no learning curve. I don't know what that's going to mean for Cam. He still might not start up there, but that's another debate. You know what I mean? Because you got to pick up that system. It's intricate, and so and some teams moved to a whole new state and got new revenue, like the Las Vegas Raiders. So I'm anxious to see that too. How that works out for them, and how they build it, and in Sin City, and I mean, they got world travelers every day. How they're handling that, so we'll see how that works out.
Oh man, when it comes to the NFL making changes, I mean, I kind of view them as they do their own thing. They don't really follow any other leaders. They kind of just do their own thing, and it's usually others are following their lead, for better or for worse. I think if there's any changes, other additional changes, or any delays, it's more going to be token changes. Like, look, a game or two is not a big deal to the league. They still got 14 more. Like if they wanted to present some type of front to be like, oh, we care. Oh, we're going to do everything we can. Oh, we're testing and we don't need to go into a bubble like the NBA without really saying those things to us in public. But that's the kind of thinking I perceive the league having. And so that's kind of what I'm expecting is if there's anything else that's going to be changing, I think it's more for show because they're a huge organization that's not really affected by much, if anything. We've seen suspensions, fines, coaches, players, and substance abuses and domestic violence.
Executives,
Concussions. Like, if any sport has gone through the ringer and has still looks like they haven't gone through much, kind of unaffected, it's the NFL. I think the NBA is the best league at taking care of their players, but I think the best business, without a shadow of a doubt, is the NFL. So, look, as a fan or even someone kind of looking into the future as best as I can, as best as we can, since no one knows a damn thing about anything going on. But
Correct.
Look, I think the NFL is going to be the league or even one of the fewest businesses in the entire world to feel this impact. That's just – maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am. But that's how I see it. I don't think they're going to be as impacted as most of the world has been. And no, I don't expect a bubble. I just don't. I agree with you, Dad. I don't expect a bubble. And Dill, I respect what you're saying, how you kind of foresee changes. It's absolutely understandable and probably the responsible thing to do. I'm not going to lie. It's probably the responsible thing to do. I just don't see that. And that's not even an opinion. That's not even me agreeing with how the NFL manages their business or disagreeing with what you're saying it may happen. That's just how I see the situation. My opinion, ask a doctor, ask lawyers, because all those other professions come into play. It's not just, oh, let's play a football game. Oh, there's marketing. No, there's doctors and there's lawyers and there's a lot of legal stuff going on. There's a lot of everything. So as for my opinion, ask the professionals. I don't know a damn thing, and I don't think most of us do. As far as attendance, I know you touched on that, Dad. Dill, do you think there's going to be fans in the stands? Do you think there's going to be some social distancing in the stands? Do you think it's going to be normal when there's games?
I think people are going to show up. I think it's been pretty clear. Anything that's opened up recently, people have been flocking to. So football, I don't see that changing too, unfortunately. But, hey, it's a great sport. I get why everybody wants to be there. But ultimately, I don't see it impacting people who actually want to be there. As far as distancing, I'm like, sure, yes. I believe ultimately it's up to the stadiums, from my understanding, on how they actually enforce that. The league is not really giving them any guidance on how they have to handle that. But I would imagine that a lot of stadiums are going to ensure that just for, again, just a little bit of publicity to make sure that the fans understand that, hey, it's safe. Come into this environment. Come here. Like, everything is normal as is. We'll just make sure we keep everything clean for you guys, which is what a lot of business strategies have been kind of approaching right now. All these ads going out there, how, clean everything is as soon as you walk into any facility now, whatever kind of store products that you're buying, everyone is preaching how clean the atmosphere is going to be. So I think it's going to be a similar approach with stadiums. But yeah, ultimately, I don't think it's going to slow down people showing up, though.
All right. All right. Dad, anything to add?
No. You guys hit it on point.
All right. And then, okay, that kind of parlays into the actual product on the field, the players. I think everyone that follows football is pretty much in the same line of thinking when it comes to rookies. It's going to be a challenge. How about the veterans, though? You guys think there's an advantage of veterans kind of holding their position and fending off some rookies, even if they're high draft picks? Or do you think high draft picks will be relatively unaffected? Do you think a preseason even, do you think that hurts? And if so, who? Like, when you hear those things, Dad, I mean, what do you think's in store with the players?
Well, first of all, when you get on the field, regardless of how many Zoom meetings you've had, how many iPads you've earned your plays on, everything, and then we still got to deal with shorts. And if we're not going to have a preseason, if I have a high draft pick and I got practicing and I drafted them that high, I'm going to roll them out there, especially on the defensive end more than the offense, because what lack of all this on-field hitting, we weren't hitting anyway years prior to this, in the last 4 or 5 years. There was no hitting going on in practice. I mean, to the level that they used to be. And these players will tell you that too, I think the defense is going to be ahead of the offense at the beginning, right? Because pretty much run a basic scheme, run and hit people till the offense starts to catch up on you, right? So you can't afford a star young running back missing a block. And then you're starting QB getting hurt game 1, game 2. You understand what I'm saying? So I'd be willing to start a cornerback that was great in college, or a defensive end, a linebacker, then I would be somebody that could put my quarterback out for the season early. So, because you mentioned veterans or rookies,
Yeah,
that's why you have to be more careful on the offensive side of the ball. You know what I mean? If you got a all-world tackle that you drafted and you're convinced, then yeah, roll them out there, especially if he was getting killed last year, right? So it's good. That's why you drafted him, right? There was a reason you picked him number 1. That's number 6 pick overall. You think he's going to be ready to go. That's why you invested in him. So, it's going to be judgment call. It's going to test all coaching staffs as much as it's going to test players. All coaching staffs are getting tested this year. So we're going to see how it rolls out, especially, football is played by quarters, first 4 games, next 4 games, hoping for that bye, and then readjust. So what do you think, Dylan?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, definitely the rookies, I believe, are going to be impacted by this. One, because, hey, this is all brand new to them. And 2, a lot of the veterans have never been through something like this as well. So this is kind of new territory for them. So just that little minor aspect of it, yeah, I think the rookies are going to be put at a little bit of more of a disadvantage there. And then any kind of veteran that just joined a new squad as well, that's going to put them a little bit behind. But it gives them the opportunity to at least learn the X and O's, on paper, meetings, how much you're retaining, the verbiage. That is something that, hey, at least you could pick up on. But it's just different getting in the flow and the rhythm of things. Like you said, timing on offense and defense, that's going to be pretty tough. But like he alluded to earlier as well, Tom Brady out there throwing. I see my guy Derek Carr always out there throwing with a bunch of different guys. Even some rookies made it out there. So this is really just going to put to the test how much the rookies are willing to put in already. Are they willing to risk, their health at this point just to go out there and meet up with their new guys and, hey, let's, run on our own. Let's do this. Let's at least line up so that way we can call some checks at the line. Like that way they can at least get into it, put in the work on their own just like they would normally have. Pandemic or not. So, but yeah, definitely going to kind of test everybody, from the veterans on the squad to the rookies, to the undrafted rookies that are trying to at least make the squad. So definitely big opportunities for people to really climb up the depth chart, or at the same time, they can stay safe, play the veteran, maybe take a different approach since there's two less preseason games, play the veteran and let the youngins, first years, second year players kind of learn behind them, and depending on how your season's going, let them jump in a little bit more, give them some more snaps as you continue to go on, based on this offseason program. It's just a little bit different.
Kind of a gradual handoff.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, Tyrod Taylor seems to be that guy that just gradually hands off his position. Like,
Oof, man,
that's tough. I mean, but hey, that's your role. You're in the league. You're still making
Exactly.
money. You get some play here and there. I mean, but that's an interesting scenario. You got Tyrod Taylor, the veteran that's there. However, that was probably the plan for the Chargers anyway.
Exactly.
Justin Herbert, sit, watch and learn. We're going to put you in when things go south. That's just how it goes. You look around, if a team had a top 10 draft pick, or, those guys are playing, no hesitation. Like you said, Dad, like those guys are in. You're just is what it is. We don't got the guys that can play ahead of you. And then maybe if you're a team that drafts in the middle of the first round, I'm mainly talking about high picks, first, second round, I think it's up in the air. Those are the swing teams of the league. For lack of a better word, mediocre. They didn't make the playoffs, and they weren't terrible. They weren't a top 10 team in the draft. They're in the middle of the pack. The ball bounces. If the ball bounces differently in 2 games, or you had done a couple of things right, you have 3 more wins on the year. That's crazy. I've seen that with the Cardinals. Just noticed it's in the NFC West that I primarily saw it with: the Cardinals, the Seahawks, the Rams. The Seahawks, they win double-digit games. Easily could have been an 8-8, 7-9 team. Cardinals, they didn't look as prepared. New coach, new quarterback and all. But defensively, there's a whole team around that. They don't look as prepared to take a jump. And they a ball bounces a couple ways. Someone catches a ball for Kyler. They're winning 2 more games on the year. And then the Rams, they were 9-7. That team looked 5-11 to me, more than they looked like a playoff team. So look, the swing teams, and you know who you are on the inside, but a lot of times they fool themselves. So I trust the teams that more so with this pandemic and the lack of an offseason and possibly no preseason at all. I trust the teams at the back of the draft because it's easy to. They made the playoffs. They had more success. Even if there was more luck that went their way compared to the teams that picked in the middle of the pack of the draft, at least it looks like those teams have the talent and the players to get the job done, and there's less of an urgency to get so-and-so on the field. But kind of shifting a little bit, do you expect to see a lot of rust on the field, a lot of poor play perhaps, a lot of penalties? I mean, say they're playing week 1. I don't think any of us expect to watch a clean game, do we?
I think definitely weeks 1 and 2 is going to be a little flag heavy on both sides of the ball, honestly. Usually is anyway, but I think especially given the circumstances with the preseason games getting cut in half already, to be determined on the other games there. But I think just timing offense-wise, I think that's going to be one of the biggest issues pretty much for everyone around the league there. Just timing. Hey, there's a lot of rookies, myself included, in my squad. Number 1 receiver, 2 receiver, debatable that you're trying to get integrated into the system there. So timing, that's not going to be there week 1 or 2. I wouldn't believe so for a lot of teams at this point.
Yeah, and I think at the beginning, I don't know, I'd say 3/4 of teams, even even the Chiefs, the high passing, high caliber offense, explosive team. I think we we might venture to say that they're going to be more vanilla at the beginning to try to protect their players. They know they need them for the long haul. So we might see more running the ball, more play action, of course, more tight ends, right? And you might get some underneath routes at the beginning, but I think as we progress, then it'll try to open up. To them, they might approach it as I know it's a regular game, but they're still working people in and working people into game shape. You got to be careful. You don't know, you don't want people pulling hammies, tearing things on the second game of the season. So, I think most of that, and you might work in a lot more defensive players than you normally do just to give people breaks, especially if you've been on the field for a long time. And special teams going to be a huge impact. Depending on how many players a team can carry, whether it's still going to be 90, it's going to drop down to 80. All that's going to have a huge impact too, because if you're losing players, does that mean you're going to play starters from other areas on special teams? So it's like you alluded to earlier, the great unknown right now. There's so many things. So that's why I say most teams will probably go into a vanilla, at least into the halftime, and then open it up a little bit more, see what we can get. So yeah, it's going to be a chess match. Every game, every half. It's going to be, you're going to have to be Bill Belichick. Change, game plan, on the fly. That's why he's built, right? So that's the way I see it. Kind of the middle at the beginning, trying to protect their players from injuries.
That's interesting point. Interesting take. Kind of cool to hear that. I hadn't thought about that, to be honest. I see it like, so usually at the beginning of every year, we see offense, and the defense has to catch up. And then, maybe it's coincidental with the weather. Maybe it's just how it goes with the season wearing on. We see more defense creeping in. Of course, hand in hand, more injuries creeping in, unfortunately, just reality. I expect kind of the same. I expect offenses to remain ahead of defenses just because they know where they're going. And defense, you have to be reactionary. And a lot of times you have to be on that string. You need that chemistry as a defense. Even if you're a cornerback, you may not play man-to-man all game. You got to know where you're going in the zone, and you got to have that familiarity with the safety, pass it on, or even the outside linebacker, depending on the scheme and the play. It's just tougher to be a defender in the league.
Yeah, I agree with that, especially with all the rules.
Yeah, on top of that, you're right, entirely. So I expect more of the same. And you know what? Even with preseason, we've seen majority of starters not really play. And if they played in that third preseason game, a lot of the good teams, they stopped playing their guys in that first quarter. They didn't even make the second quarter. Unless you're Bill Belichick making a statement, putting Tom Brady in the second quarter, do your thing, Bill. But other than that, making a statement with the team, I don't find that to be fully necessary. You have all this time leading up to that point for those kind of statements to make. So, but when it comes to game time, I see offenses remaining ahead of defenses week 1, week 2, early on. So that's the Ryan.
The Eagles. You don't need to change that. You guys are in sync already. It's just going to be carryover. But there's a lot of teams, the other half of the league that doesn't make the playoffs, that have to right the ship and can't afford to lose games or people. So the Eagles, I know you lost Carson before, and you guys still won and everything, but your defense should be better this year too. So, it makes it easier when your offense can go out there and roll like that. But I don't expect that for most teams to view it that way. I just think that injury and getting players, I just the factor of the families and what they're going to do when they're not with the team is what worries me on a lot of these. What are you going to do? So, but offense could leap ahead.
You got a point though. There is real life that doesn't just go away just because you have a job and something you're supposed to do. I mean, we all have work, and some days are better than other days. That's very true.
Right.
Yeah, there's always that element. Absolutely, doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's a good relatable point you made.